So, you just started your locks, but you don't know what to expect, huh? Well, have no fear. Kyra's here. In today's video, I'm going to be going over 15 different things that you can expect in your first year of the lock journey. Please keep in mind that there are no two people's journey that is exactly the same. So, some of these things you may see or experience, some of these things you may not. But everybody's journey is unique. So, that is the most important thing to keep in mind. Oh, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Kyra. And if you are not new here, welcome back. Of course, if you guys have not already subscribed, go ahead and do so. And feel free, if there's anything that I missed on this list, drop them down below in the comments, like, share this video, all that, because it really does help your girl out. So I really do appreciate you guys. But let's go ahead and stop that chit chat and let's get into this list. Number one is you may experience some unraveling. Now, unraveling during your lock journey can be very frustrating, but please know that it is completely normal, especially if you started with comb coils. It's a little bit more prone to happen than with two-strand twists. That's not to say if you have comb coils, all your locks are going to unravel. And also keep in mind that it depends on the texture of your hair. So there's a lot of factors that are going to go into all of these categories, but just know that you may experience some of your locks coming out. Now there's ways that you can prevent that, especially if it's happening during your wash days. You can wear a stocking cap and wash your locks through the stocking cap. You can wash your locks in like little groups of ponytails. If it does happen to unravel, just put it back in there. It's okay. It's okay. At some point your lock is going to catch on to what's going on and it'll end up staying. I know my first set of locks, I had issues with maybe like 4 or 5 locks that kept unraveling. I started with comb coils last time and eventually they caught up to the group and they ended up staying in. So don't get frustrated if that does happen, but just know that you may experience some unraveling. Okay? Number two. So number two, I will insert pictures just so that you can see firsthand. But we already know this is a thing, and that is shrinkage. Okay, if you're watching this, I don't want to assume that you're black, but I'm assuming that you're probably black. But you guys know that our hair definitely likes to shrink up. It likes to shrink up. The normal fact that our hair shrinks, and then on top of that, when your hair is locking up, your hair is twisting and tangling up and matting up. So you know, obviously, if your hair is bunched up and twisted up, it's going to be shorter than what it would be if your strands were pulled straight. So please keep in mind that shrinkage is a huge thing in the lock community, but once those babies drop, they will drop. And in my opinion, your hair grows so much faster when it's locked than anything else, and I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. Okay, once you go through all these stages, these beginning stages, and your locks hit that certain point and they finally drop, you're gonna start to see that length. But initially they will shrivel up, baby, which is why a lot of people are hesitant to start if they have short hair. Sometimes it may not be worth it, and that's just because your hair will probably grow faster when it is locked up. So just keep that in mind if you were scared to start because your hair is short. So the next thing that you can expect in your first year is going to be budding. Now, budding is a stage that your locks actually go through as they are maturing, when you have those starter locks, baby locks, whatever you call it. So budding is a great thing. Budding is what you want to happen, but essentially what that is it's when your hair, a part of your lock, it starts to kind of expand, and what it's doing is it's creating a net for that hair to kind of lock in and tangle up together in that section. So budding is a really, really good thing. It's a sign that your locks are maturing. So for some people, I know the bumps and the lumps can be a little bit much, but just know that budding is something that you should be experiencing. And now this next one is frizz. So for me, frizz does not bother me at all, but please know that your locks are going to get frizzy. It's literally a part of the process. At this point, my locks are not as frizzy anymore. Yeah, not really. But I can insert some pictures to where my locks were extremely frizzy, but it's literally just a stage that you go through, and that's something that you're gonna have to either learn to love, or you're just gonna be complaining about it for a while because it's natural and it's okay. And just please remember that your locks are still beautiful, but yes, some babies is gonna get frizzy. They're gonna get frizzy, okay? Okay, so now this next one, something that you may not experience, and that is because it has nothing to do with you personally, but it's the outside. outside world. So the next one is, you may have people that are questioning your decision to lock your hair or whatever you're doing. People are not going to understand what's going on, especially if they have no idea what the locking process looks like. So all they're going off of is how you look. And of course, locks, when you're first starting out, going through those starter lock stages, that's when your hair is not really, mature, and it can look a little bit more ungroomed to some people. So you may have people wondering what the hell you're doing. And that's just a nice way to put it. You may hear all types of stuff, but people are just going to be like,
oh, when are you gonna take those twists out of your hair? Or what are you doing with your hair? When are you gonna, retwist your hair?
You may get all these questions, but just know that your lock journey is your own business and it's yours. So please do not let anybody's questions influence how you feel. But just know they may come. Now this next one is a big one. And the next thing that you can expect during the first year is unsolicited advice. The lock community is a huge community, but there's so many do's and don'ts to the lock journey that sometimes it can be overwhelming. So a lot of times people will throw their opinions out there, things that they think that you should be doing. And the bottom line is, you have to learn what your locks like and what works best for you. So yes, I would say take advice. Hopefully it's good advice. Take advice when you see fit, but please, if you go against something that is the norm and you find that it works for you and is healthy for your locks, then continue to do whatever you're doing, because it's your hair, it's your head, and it's your body. That's it. I'll use me for example. Dyeing your locks. So I do not recommend dyeing your locks or bleaching your locks really early. But I always tell people, if you are going to do it, then make sure that you are moisturizing your hair. I will never be like, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's gonna, mess your locks all up. Your locks aren't going to mature right, because that's not true. It's a matter of the maintenance afterwards. So if you can handle that responsibility and you're going to do good, then dye your hair, bleach your hair if you want to. Bleaching is always going to be damaging in some form. That's just the nature of what bleaching does. But hey, as long as you can maintain it the proper way, then I say go for it. But people are going to tell you all the time what you should and what you should not do. So just take advice with a grain of salt, but just use your own knowledge and learn your own hair and listen to yourself. Okay, so next is, please expect your locks to be moving at different rates. As far as the maturing process, they're not going to all be doing the same thing. There's going to be different parts that are budding. There's going to be different parts that are already locked up. There's going to be frizzier parts. You can't birth 50 kids and expect them to all be the same. They're not going to. Same thing for your locks. So just don't be like, oh, this lock back here in the back of my head is locked up, but this one in the front is not doing anything. Oh my gosh, like, don't do that. Just give the one in the front time to do what it's going to do when it's going to do. Okay. So the next thing on the list that you can expect is your locks to get heavier, or just to have some more weight to them. That's something that's really good, and that's like, for me, that's one of the first signs where it's like, oh my God, like my babies are really doing a damn thing. Once they start to get that weight to them and they start to get a little bit heavier, that's how you know that things are going in the right direction. Because when your hair is either just comb coiled or 2-strand twist, or however you start it, your hair tends to be a little bit more flowy and flexible and just it's like, no, but you know what I'm trying to say. Bottom line is, when they start to feel heavier, that's a good thing. So this next one is, your locks start to get thicker and they start to get a little bit more stiff. Now, that's not to say your hair is going to be stiff. You're like, your locks going to be looking like this. As they mature, they're going to thicken up, and that's whether you have thick locks or not. Even if you have skinny locks, they're still going to thicken up because they're originally in that 2-strand or comb coil or whatever pattern, and the hair is not, intertwined. It's not, I don't really know much more than that. I'm just going to say they start to get thick and stiff. But once your hair continuously matures, the stiffness kind of loosens up as the years go by. Your hair getting thicker is going to in turn make styles harder to do. Now that may be more so if you have thick locks, And I can only speak on thick locks because I've always had thick locks. But when you're trying to do them high ponytails, them buns and all that, you have to get past a certain point for it to be back easy again, because as your locks thicken, it's going to be so hard to even do anything. And you know, us lockheads, we happen to be tender-headed usually, so sometimes it's not even worth doing. But them getting thicker is a good thing. Okay, so the next one is your ends. So now it depends on your hair type, your hair texture, of course, but you can expect those. If you have like curly ends, they may not be willing to lock up, especially during that first year. So I know I've had a couple people ask me like, what do you do with your ends? Or do you leave them? Do you cut them? And I know for my last set, I left them for a while, but I know there were some that I ended up cutting. So this goes back to doing what you feel is best and what you want to do. But if you are going to cut them off, then please make sure that your hair is at least some type of sealed at the end at least a little bit, because you don't want to cut and then your locks start unraveling. So just be smart about when you make that decision, if that is something that you do want to do. But you know, hey, it always adds character, so it's okay to leave them too. This say I'm just gonna leave my ends alone, and whatever they decide to do is whatever they decide to do. So that's that. Next is you may experience some bunching, which is what I have going on here. So I'm past the point of budding. My locks are almost a year. So I have bunching, and that's because I do not palm roll down my locks, and I also didn't like go through and stretch my locks out. So I do have some areas of bunching, and for me, that's okay. This may bother some people, but me, I don't really like the uniform look of locks on me personally, so it does not bother me. But just know that if you are not palm rolling or whatever other retwisting method, or if you have really like curly thick hair, just know that this can happen. And it does bother some people. I know my first set it did, especially because my hair was so much shorter, so like these pieces would be like always right here, and it used to drive me crazy. But these pieces, they do like resolve themselves as time goes on. Okay, so eventually, like these parts that were bunched up like this, they did end up smoothing themselves out as the years went on. So I would say maybe around like year 2.5, year 3, I could be wrong. But yeah, just know that you may have some bunching, possibly. Now this next one is a beautiful one, and that is, you can expect to fall in love with your hair. Now, I won't say everybody, of course, but a lot of us start our lock journeys for, you know, different reasons. But I know me, for example, my original lock journey was started back in 2016, December 30th, 2016. And the main reason why I decided to lock up was because I just had a hard time managing my loose natural hair, and I just thought it was always kind of like a nuisance. Unfortunately, that's how I was looking at it, because it was just a lot to handle. So my lock journey was the first time in my life that I ever learned to embrace my hair and to love my hair in its natural form, and it was a beautiful process. So I won't do too much about that, but just know the lock community is an extremely strong community. There are, especially, I can't really speak for the men, I can only speak for the women, but if you go on Instagram and find you some good lock ladies, I'll insert my Instagram here as well, but you can just see the community that's built around having locks is absolutely beautiful. And it's just, it also turns into kind of like a spiritual thing for a lot of people, and as their locks are growing, they choose to grow personally with them. So it's a beautiful experience overall, but you can definitely expect to fall in love with your hair as it's going through all the changes. A lot of us look at our locks like they're our babies. Come on, little babies. My nail got stuck on it. But yeah, you can definitely expect that. Now, on the contrary, next is feelings of, oh, I should have done this instead, or envious type of feelings, comparing yourself to other people, or just not even necessarily always comparing yourself to other people. Sometimes it's just things that you don't like. So you may experience feelings in the beginning about, oh, I wish, you know, I would have started this way, or had these type of parts, or had this size of my lock. So just know that those feelings are normal, and not everybody experiences that at all. But the advice that I always give people is, listen, your locks are probably beautiful the way they are. But if you do want to make changes, it is of course always easier in the beginning, and that's because they're going to be easier to comb out. One, it's going to be easier emotionally if you've already kind of grew an attachment to your locks. So sometimes it's hard to do that, but just know that you may experience those feelings. So do whatever you want to do. Don't let nobody talk you into starting over if you're not sure, and vice versa. So make sure that it's something that you want to do with your hair ultimately, but just know that you may experience, especially when you see so many different people, you're probably gonna be like, oh, like I have people on my Instagram that are like, oh, you make me want to have thicker locks or this and that. Like, so just know that sometimes there can be a lot of comparison and you may want to do things differently, and that's okay. Start over if you want to start over, but they're probably beautiful, but that's your decision. So I just tell people the sooner the better, because once you get down a year down into your lock journey and you're still thinking about, oh man, I should have started my locks thicker, it gets harder and harder and harder as the time goes on. Like for me, when I combed out my locks after 4 years, one of the hardest decisions that I ever had to do in my life. So I had multiple reasons, but it was so hard. Like that was one of the most emotional times in my life as well. It was really hard, but I just knew that if I would have kept waiting and waiting and waiting, I would have been deeper and deeper and deeper into my lock journey. So yeah, you make that decision. Decide what's best for you. We're almost done here. So the next one is having off days, I'll say, and that is because I even personally, I love my locks. They're absolutely beautiful. Like 99.97% of the time, I think they're effortless, flawless. They look great. But in the starter lock stage, you can have some days where your hair may look a little wild to you. And I don't believe in the ugly stage. That's not in my vocabulary. That's not something that I like to hear. I don't believe in it. But I know realistically that sometimes starter locks can be a little bit wild, and that's because they like to do their own thing. So one may be going this way, the other one may be going that way, but just know that it's okay if you're having those days where you're feeling like my hair may look a little rough today. That's okay. You can have a bad hair day. Anybody can have a bad hair day. Now, the next thing that you can expect during the first year of your lock journey and forever, this is one of the most important ones, is to spend a lot less money. A lot less, okay? We don't gotta be buying all that shit that the loose natural community gotta do. We don't gotta do all that. So you honestly save a lot of money when you lock your hair. That we don't have to buy as many products. We don't got to do all that concoctions and figure out this and that. Yes, we still have to figure out what our hair likes, what our locks like, and you still have to be mindful of what you are putting in your locks, but you're not going to spend anywhere near as much as you were spending for your hair when it was loose natural. Especially like you don't got to buy all the combs and gadgets and gizmos and you know what I'm trying to say, okay? You're going to save a lot of money, trust me. So you can expect a lot of great things during this first year, a lot of changes, a lot of transformation, but overall, embrace your journey, love your journey, enjoy it. It's beautiful. If you guys have not already subscribed to my skincare channel, Urban View, please go ahead and do so. I will also insert my Instagram on the screen as well. The Instagram kind of has a lot more going on than the YouTube page right now. So make sure that you subscribe here and there. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys for the next video.